ending the third week. We're working on AAA right now. Here's what happened today in class. We took the pre-assessment, and then I looked at that while the students did. They reviewed the current lab, did a peer check. We switched around. Different people looked at different people's configurations. Then we talked about AAA discussion, probably a half hour, maybe 45 minutes to most. Currently, right now, the students are working on the labs. And then skills-based, this one over the weekend. The students are going to let me know which router they want to use. And then I'm going to give them some items to correct. I'll do that later on today. I'll take a look, change a few things, not a lot, and I'll even give them some direction on what to correct. And then they have to document access to the device and then the different views, you know, the role-based access and what they can do. I've got to have that by Monday, by 8 a.m., preferably way before that, because then I'm going to put together a little bit of electronic information for the routers class. Okay, that NET-215 class in which they are going to use that documentation to access the equipment. They're going to put workstations on the networks, and from the networks they're going to need to be able to access equipment. A good example would be in that documentation they have to know whether they need to use PuTTY in terms of SSH port 22, or if they need to just telnet, or what they need between the devices. Okay? We reviewed some items with AAA. We talked about the characteristics, and we just continued beyond what we had already talked about. And I will post a lecture from Tuesday and also this lecture on YouTube. We talked about character mode, difference between that and packet mode. And then, you know, the big difference between, a difference between AAA and just doing things local. We talked about the fact that AAA allows us to have methods. We reviewed the methods. A method could be using the enable password. We talked about verbose briefly. Line password, local or local case, the difference there. We talked about none, group radius, group TACSAX, and group. Then we looked at an example. So we said, if you're using local case could make a difference in how that works. We didn't put all of it in, but we have an admin password here. We have an admin password here, and then we turn on AAA, and the first line here we say AAA authentication login default, and we said local case and enable. So if we don't configure something, let's say on the VTY lines, if we don't configure something there, then it's going to use the default. So it's going to go local case. So like in the, I believe in the assessment, they showed where somebody typed a small a here and it didn't work because we said local case. And then if we indicate authentication login down here, if we indicate we're going to use this name, right? If we're going to use that name, then it's going to go to a group radius server. If this group radius server returns an error, we can't access it, then it's going to go to our next method, and then to our next method after that. Now, if the server's there and up and working, and we try to authenticate and can't authenticate, then we're done. The only reason to move from the methods is if, this is a good example, if the radius server happens to be down and it can't access it, then we still have a way to get in. Okay? So then the rest of today is primarily working on configuration of AAA. I suggested they save their configurations, and then if they don't get very far in the AAA, we can always reload it. And they can save their AA configuration and put that back in on Tuesday. And that's it.